Hey guys, Sorin here. So this is more of a DIY video. Let's say you want to make your own network cables, your LAN cables. That's pretty easy, and usually when you want to cut to length or make small patch cords so your network stack or setup will look awesome, you can usually get things done much cheaper by doing it yourself. Something like this. A small patch cable that really in my setup just has the purpose of connecting the modem to a router. So I don't need a half a meter or 1 meter cable. And it was also cheaper to make than half a meter cable or a patch cord. So what do you need? You obviously need some cable. You can buy this in bulk. It's usually very cheap. You need some RJ45 crimping connectors that are just plain old connectors, and mine came with some rubber covers that will look pretty neat. I didn't use any rubber covers on this one. These are metallic. They both do the job just fine. So I just cut the cable to length. Yeah, it's gonna be a small one. And you need a crimping tool. This is actually mandatory. The crimping tool I use is some cheapo brought from the hardware store. It supports 8P connectors. That's the RJ45 connector that we need to use on LAN cables. And it also has a way to cut cables and to remove the shielding from the cable so you can actually plug it in, and we will see how to do that in a couple of seconds. What you need to know is that using this method you can successfully make your own Cat5 cable, Cat5e, Cat6, Cat6e, and so on. But for these 4 types at least, it will work flawlessly, and the uplink will, if you correctly do it, the uplink will show as gigabit or 100 megabytes if your network equipment only supports that much. I've done this a lot of times. Usually wiring the house goes much cheaper and easier, as you can first put the cable where you want to through a small hole in the wall or something like that, and after you can just crimp the connector so you won't have a big hole in the wall, and you can hide the cables properly around your house or your office. And your network stack will look a lot more cleaner if you have 4 small cables instead of 4 1 meter cables, or I don't know. I actually just recently replaced the LAN cable that was going from one of our routers to my main workstation because I had a 5 meter length cable, but the actual distance is about 1 meter. So the cable had to be tidied up and swirled, and it just wasn't looking neat. And now it looks neat. So let's get to the actual process of making your own cable. Keep in mind I'm just using this length because I need a cable this small at the moment, but you can use any length up to 100 meters. Let's go. So we're making our own patch cord. This is a Cat5e cable, but the same goes with Cat6 or Cat6e. It's just thicker and depends on the isolation. If it's easier, see, this is a Cat6e, the gray one, and the white one is a Cat5e. This is harder to twist, and it has a better isolation against crosstalk and other stuff. I also made this one, but now I need a short one, so let's just make it. As I said in the intro, we need the cable, the crimping tool, the RJ45 crimp connector. That means it's ready to crimp with the tool. And I also got this handy little thingy, the rubber thing to protect. So my crimping tool can also take off the isolation from the wire, can also cut wires, and we're gonna use the 8P one. That's the RJ45 version. This is for phone lines and DSL. Okay, let's go. First we need to take off the isolation. We're gonna take off a bit more so we can then properly extend the cables to connect them to the connector. The isolation will be just, we need to just make it a small cut, twist, and we should be having a cut. As this wire is a bit thinner, my cut is not that great, but it will have to do. Or we can just use the cutting one. Don't press too much, so you won't cut the actual cable. Let's see. There we go. And we just pull. We don't need this anymore. And we have 4 pairs, totaling 8 cables. What we need to do now is just straighten these up, untwist them. In case you were wondering, when you see these cables advertised as twisted foil pairs, that's what it's referring to, that each pair is foiled for isolation purposes. And now that we have all these straightened up, we can see that there are 8. The blue one just refuses to cooperate. Okay, more or less. We need to respect a certain order when we insert them into the crimp connector, so that everything will work just nicely. We're making a basic LAN cable, not a crossover cable or something like that. A basic LAN patch cable that you just plug into your router or switch and in your PC or notebook or TV or whatever. So the order that we should follow is, as we're facing the connector with the pin away from us, is striped orange, orange, striped green, blue, striped blue, green, striped brown, and brown. So what we will need to do is arrange this in that order and then cut them to length so they would enter just at the top of this connector. So now we're going to do just that. So we have the striped orange as the first one, the orange as the second one, the striped green one is our next needed cable, and then we have the blue and the striped blue. Like so. Just let me work them up a bit so it would be easier to arrange them. And then we have the solid green, striped brown, and brown. So once again, striped orange, orange, striped green, blue, striped blue, full green, striped brown, and full brown. And now we just need to cut them so much in order that our cables will reach inside of the connector, but this isolation will just barely be at the entrance of the connector. So I'm going to cut something like this, lengthwise, using the tool. We have the wire cutter over there. Let's just completely cut them. try to cut them as evenly as possible to avoid problems. Do know that if you actually ruin a connector, you can't really go back and fix it. So when inserting, the connector is pointing with this thing outside of us, not at us. We're just seeing the metallic connectors. So we just insert it, nice and easy. And we can see that all the wires have gone straight up. They need a little bit of push. And we can also check if all the wires went through properly before actually crimping it. And we can see that the blue ones and the green pesky cable were not cooperating. Let's go back. Check the order again. Straighten it up more. That's usually the problem. Apparently one of them wasn't straight, and that's why we had the issues. Okay, that seems to be just about right. Do mind the order, triple check it to make sure that everything is okay, as once you crimp the connector, it's crimped. And again. And as you can probably tell, all the cables have reached the end. They've gone straight through. So that means all that is left for us to do is to crimp using the tool. So we just insert into the crimping tool and then just squeeze it hard. And that's about it. That's one end of our tiny, neat looking patch cable. If you just want to connect this from a switch to another one or to a router that is just sitting in your rack above it, this will look pretty darn clean and awesome. Of course, if you want to go the next step, you can get colored cable or whatever your build and how clean you want it to look. I hope this video helped, and if it did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and tell me if you want to see other stuff like this in the future. Thanks for watching. Bye.